bit more advanced, what you will need is probably two PCs or one very powerful PC. We've got a PC here which Timo built us, which is pretty powerful, and it does our streaming and lyrics and everything all in one box at the moment. Some of you will have a laptop perhaps which you project your lyrics from, and it might be good enough for doing that, but as soon as you start to ask it streaming as well, it might start to struggle, and then it might all fall apart. So it might be better to invest in a separate PC for streaming, because then you can see what you're outputting, you can listen to what you're putting into the stream, you can obviously moderate the stream, that kind of stuff, from that PC using the OBS software. And then you got the other one just for the lyrics, and they're just doing their thing in the meeting hall, for example, and no one's none the wiser. You'll need cameras. These could be USB cameras, although I think OBS struggles with more than one USB camera. So we use a HDMI input, well, SDI, but that's another matter. So these cameras could be static. So you can get small camcorders. This isn't, they still make them, these small kind of camcorders, and they've got something which some of them, which I'll send links to, have clean HDMI outputs, because what you get on camcorders sometimes is you get the overlays, like when you've done your home videos perhaps in the past, in the 90s and 2000s perhaps, you'd have like the little framing around the edge and the little record and the date and time and all that kind of stuff, which perhaps isn't what you want to send out over your stream. So a clean HDMI out is key. It can, if you find a good camera, it might be worth just checking that it's got a clean HDMI out before you buy, or a bit of research online just to check, and tripods. Don't go cheap as chips on tripods, because they'll be too light and fall over. You want to go middle of the road. Generally, I would probably say 30 to 50 pounds on a tripod, to make sure it's steady enough, and it's not going to get knocked too easily. Second option you've got, which is what we've done here at Eltham, is go for a pan tilt zoom camera. And this is a second-hand video conferencing camera, which I found on eBay for £100, which is pretty good. Back in February, that was. But now they've gone up in value, of course. So they're usually around the 175, 200 kind of pound mark. And I've got some recommendations on those as well. And so the idea with the pan tilt zoom cameras is that you can turn them from different areas in the hall. You can move them up and down, and you can zoom in and out, which is obviously quite handy if you've got, maybe you just want to zoom in on the speaker and then go wider out for in a time of work.
And the point is, you can do that from remote control, can't you? So it's not,
That's
you don't
right.
have to stand next to it or be in,
Yeah. I hope to show you that later. I've been having some technical issues here though with it for some reason. Okay. And so you can get those second-hand VC cameras, or you can go all out and buy a brand new one. And Tim asked this question earlier, and the cheapest you're probably talking about £600 odd, for one which probably doesn't have a lot of kudos, all the way up to 3-5 grand, whatever you want to spend, kind of thing. But yeah, the idea is that you're looking for a camera like this, which has a HDMI output, because that will get your signal from the camera to your PC. But some of the cheaper pan tilt zoom cameras don't have the HDMI output. They're designed more as maybe a security camera, that kind of thing. So that's just something else to keep an eye on when you're looking. And then one quick lesson from me is HDCP, which is high definition copyright protection. And this is something which is sometimes embedded on HDMIs. So, for example, the conference camera that I got there was giving me a picture to a screen, but it wouldn't give me a picture to a recording device. And that's because the recording device said, oh, you've got HDCP on you. I'm not going to let you be seen through me. And it's basically to stop people recording copyrighted content from Blu-ray players, etc. So that's just something to be aware of. I had to do a work. If you come across it, give me a call and I can talk you through what I did. I had to buy an extra little thing and a few other little adapters, but I got around it without breaking the law. So yeah. So to get your cameras and your PCs, your lyrics and presentation all into one kind of video input, then you're looking at getting a vision mixer of some kind. Now, Blackmagic Design, forgive the name, it's not particularly the most Christian of names, but they do very good products at very good prices. They are a broadcasting equipment manufacturer, and they've got some really good entry-level stuff. The 8M Mini is something to look out for. It's around about £300 mark. You get 4 video inputs, and then you get a USB output, which goes straight into your laptop or PC. And that one device can then accept 4 HDMI inputs. You can switch between them. You can do lots of fun, fancy things. I'll send a link with a video as well on what you can do with that. But it's a really, really nice bit of kit. And the added benefit with that is that you also have an audio input on that as well. So with that little device, you can plug up to 4 cameras, a sound feed from a mixing desk, and you're good to go, basically through one USB into your PC, hit stream, and then that's it, job done.
So, Tarun, can I ask a question about the Blackmagic Design thing?
Yeah.
Can you preview the videos before you output them?
So
you've got lots of different cameras that weren't static.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way of previewing them before you output them to the main?
So not on the Mini, but they've got another one called the Mini Pro, which does have a preview output, and I think that comes in around about this £500 mark. Yeah. So, and there's another one above that as well, which is £800, which gives you vision mixing capabilities, which is way over the top. But yeah.
Cool.
Go that deep. You can go that deep.
So using this system, you wouldn't spend money basically on a big laptop. So obviously with the OBS, you're buying a better quality laptop. But in this mix, you're basically getting you don't need a complicated PC. You just basically the little Blackmagic thing is. You haven't got a picture of it, have you?
On my next slide, I have. There you go.
So yeah, the idea of something like that is that you say it's doing it so you can have your video your camcorder, your webcam, whatever you want plugged into it, and then it basically does it's doing it all for you basically. Is that
that's
so
right?
It's in one sense. So do you think that's actually simpler than using all the complicated software? I mean, I know you've said it's the advanced option, but in some ways.
Yeah, to get a multiple multiple sources displayed as one feed, then yeah, you're probably right on that. It probably makes sense to get that and then plug that into a laptop to stream it, because that, as you say, it does all the complicated stuff of getting the audio and the video together and then just output it like a standard webcam feed for the PC to use. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Cool. Go back. Sorry, I jumped out.
Cool. So just while we're here, we may as well just quickly go through this. As you can see, you've got the audio on the left-hand side, 2 inputs. There's a video you can watch on this. You've got your video inputs and 1 output. Sorry. So there's 4 video inputs and 1 HDMI output that you can just watch the program, what they call the program, i.e. what is being streamed, feed. And then on the Pro, you can then configure that port to be the preview, but not on the standard Mini. Then you've got the USB, which heads out to the PC, a network cable, which is for like remote control of it, if you want to go into that, and then of course power. And there's a really good video from a geeky guy on YouTube about all its features, and it's worth a look if you're going to invest in one, definitely. So where are we up to? PA kit. Yes, so sound is king. So now you've got your video sorted out. To get your sound into your stream, you'll need a feed from your mixing desk. So I'm going to see if I can switch over. Bear with me a moment. Let me mute this.
This is the point where Drew attempts to do something technical, and of course it won't work, because whenever you try to do something technical live, it never works. So it's going to fill us all with confidence that doing things like this is really easy, and anyone can do it.
Right. Okay. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
One sec. I just need to exit this view. I need to unmute.
So is this the time we go completely quiet just to get our own back on the sound?
I can hear you now. So there you go. I know it's working. So I'm now on our EGCC PC. This is a mouthful. So you should see me there now. If you pin that video, then you should see me. And I'll quickly just go through what we're doing here. So we have a digital mixer. So this is the sound part.
Drew,
yeah.
are you wanting us to see your presentation or the screen?
The presentation, just for a little while.
That's fine. Okay.
So we have a digital mixer, the Behringer X-Air. We have the X-Air 16, which is very nice. The X-Air 18 is the same price now as the X16 was, and I'd recommend that if you're getting a digital mixer, but anyway, that's another subject. And basically it can be any desk which has an auxiliary output. Now by auxiliary output, I don't mean like the mini jack you get in a car to plug your phone in. What I mean is a separate output which is controlled separately from the main PA. So what some desks might have this marked down as is something like a bus or a send, or it might even be labeled as an aux, which is what you need to do this, because you want to have the mix in your room is going to be different to the mix on the stream, slightly, but it will make a difference. Because of how things work. So what I'll do now is I'll share my screen over the top of this. Oh no, I need to stop my share screen. One sec. Stop this. Stop share. Okay, so now I'm back and I share my screen. Let's just share screen to share. Okay, so this is our mixer. It's just on a screen rather than on a desk. So you can see we've got our channels just like any other mixer, and you can set your levels of your mix. So for example, we've got the tie clip here, the handheld, so I can turn that up and I can hear that more in the room now than, but you'll notice that me doing that hasn't changed the level for you, or shouldn't have. He says, let me just quickly check that. Yeah, that's right. So I can change this level as much as possible in the room, but it doesn't override what's in the on the Zoom call. So I can turn that right down in the room, and you can still hear me, but I can't hear myself in the room. So this is what I mean by having a separate mix for what's in the room and what's going out over the stream. So this is our main mix here. So our stream mix is here. It's very slightly different. but it makes a difference. We've gained it up quite a lot there as well, because people are always saying it's quiet, but I think we fixed that now. So this mix, I can change this, I can do other things to this, and it won't affect what people hear in the main room. So this is because what you have in the room is you have the sound of the instruments coming out, and then you have the sound of the PA coming as well. Whereas on the stream, you'll only have the sound coming from the microphones. You won't have any sound coming from the room unless you've got audience mics or congregation mics, which are balanced to do that. The other thing, of course, is that you don't want to have the congregation coming out of the speakers back at them. You want to have the congregation just going to the stream, because obviously you don't really want to hear yourself. Create feedback and all that kind of, all that kind of stuff. So we have this mixer. We have the output from the mixer connected to this stream mix, connected into our PC. We've just plugged it straight into our microphone input, which fortunately for us is a stereo input, which means you can have nice effects like reverb and all that kind of stuff, lovely stuff, going through to your stream, just to make things sound a bit nicer. So that's the sound side of things. So it's coming through to our PC. We've got a webcam. I'll touch on.
Drew, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So one of the, in reality, we won't have a complicated mixer like that. If we wanted to do sound that was good quality but without kind of the complication of that mix, would we just buy a couple of those microphones that you were suggesting early on? So would we buy a couple of decent microphones to go in maybe with that, or can you use them off the...
I guess that is an option, to do that. But if you've got a mixer which has an auxiliary output, then just use that.
So even though, because obviously yours is a big clever digital mixer,
yeah.
But most people I would imagine have got just an analog mixer.
You'll be surprised, even the simple basic ones will often have a separate output. It might be called a foldback or an effects send or something like that. I know you guys have got a Yamaha something or other, haven't you?
Yeah, the River Church has definitely got an aux send.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So in that sense, it is something that we can all do without having to kind of have a complicated. So you can do decent sound without a complicated mixer set. Is that set up?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, the River have something like this, don't you?
We do.
One of those. Anyway,
yeah, the EMX.
Let's just pick this one at random, and you can see on this. Hopefully, can I view that larger? This is a bit of impromptu. There we go. View that larger. Apparently, so on here, I don't know if you can see this. What have you got? So you got your gain, your EQ, and yeah, you've got a couple of sends there. And so on this desk, an analog desk, you've got two options there of sending signal before it then hits these faders down here and goes through to your main mix in your room. So yeah, it's possible on analog mixers as well as digital mixers to do that. Any questions on sound actually before we go over to OBS? No. Okay. Good stuff. Right. So let's quickly touch on OBS. So,
Drew, sorry, I was muted. This might be a silly question based on what you just said, but if I understood it correctly, right? So I can take. You were talking about that audio and video module earlier on, yeah. So am I taking
the Blackmagic device?
That's it. Yeah, I'm taking the audio out of the desk into that.
Correct.
And then that all syncs up with whatever video I've got going into it.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry. Please.
Okay. It may, when I say sync, it will sync up. Is you may find that there is a slight delay on the video over the audio or vice versa. to be honest, I don't know if in the Mini you can delay the output of the video to match the audio, but that will be something I'll need to check. Because obviously if your sound is out of sync, it looks a bit weird. So yeah, maybe that's something just to quickly check on my side. That works. Now,
But the point about that solution is we can use the current mixers we have, take the send feed out, and even if we've only got 1 or 2 cameras, we can you can have one camera that's focused on the preacher, for example, one that's say a close up of the preacher, and one that's say further back that's catching the whole congregation, and you could then just flick between those two cameras and then use the audio feed from the mixing desk to has Drew just left us? Has he just gone?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still listening. Go.
But yeah, that's how it would basically work. Yeah, so so if we've got people, because obviously, I mean, a lot of us are thinking about we're going to have some people in the room and some people at home, and so the idea would be is that you'd have a slightly, using the FX thing that you showed us there, you can get a slightly different mix for for the YouTube stream.
yeah,
And then you can have 1 or 2 videos that basically using that little box, you can just flick between, the whole congregation from the back, for example, and then when the speaker's coming at the front, that's the idea. So in a sense, it's actually not overly complicated. It will have cost a little bit of money to get it set up, but actually it's not ridiculous. That's actually not that complicated, is it really?
no, exactly. Yeah.
And we don't need a degree in software. Actually, it's just cables and a couple of buttons, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I've managed to get my camera working. This is our video conference camera, which is remote controllable. When it's in its final resting place, I will be able to control it from there. But because of the cafe, I'll just quickly. So with this, I can use the remote control, and I can zoom it in. I can zoom it out. I can go up, down, right, and left. So it's pretty good. We like it a lot. It's improved the quality over the USB camera because it's a high definition device. Even though a webcam might say it's high definition, and technically it is, because of the lens it's got, it doesn't really get enough light to the pixels, and you don't really see the whole, you get the benefit basically of a proper HD image like you do with a device like this. So that's our camera, which usually sits back a bit further from there, but because of the cafe being set up, it's just where it is. So we can obviously position that wherever we want it to be looking. And then we've got OBS. So you could do a similar kind of thing with the ATEM Mini, in terms of you can have different things on the screen. You can do like chroma keys, all that kind of nonsense, which is a bit more advanced to get your lyrics up, which maybe we can cover for people if they want that kind of information. But with the ATEM Mini, you can just do a picture-in-picture. So hold on a second, let me just start this up. You can do a picture-in-picture, which then gives you obviously a box where you can have your lyrics.
What is picture-in-picture, Drew?
It's a little box you'll have on your screen, kind of like what you're seeing now, where you've got a little picture of me in the corner and the large screen share. So you could do that on the ATEM Mini as well. So let me just quickly do this one. Quickly go. I forget how to use this sometimes. Let's turn the output on. There we go. So this is how we use it. Is we have a picture-in-picture with just the lower kind of, not even a third there, lower fifth, with a couple of lines, which we then use to display the lyrics, which is basically just pulling off an image, which is usually going to our projector, of just the first couple, well, the 2 lines at a time, basically. And the person operating the lyrics just goes through as they would normally on the lyrics, and they appear on the screen in time with what's being played in the room. Tim, I sense you have a question.
No, I don't have a question.
Oh, okay.
You can do this on the A10 Mini, can't you? Because there's this function's available on the A10 Mini, isn't it?
Yeah. So in the video that guy does, that I'll send the link out for. He goes through how to do a chroma key with an elephant for some reason, but you can do just the same with lyrics. So, for example, a chroma key works in that the image that I'm seeing on my screen is that it's a whole blue image with just the words on it. So what you can do is, can I even do it now? Let me have a look. Is I tell the software to, yes, I can. So I tell the software to look for an image. Where is it? Sorry, I'm doing this really.
You might have to drag that box up on top of the picture, Drew, because it's got nothing underneath it now.
Oh, I see. Cheers, John. I forgot you were on. I can't remember how to do this. We've definitely done it. There we go. I can now pick out the colour. Oh, can you not just select it there? How close am I? That's pretty close. Go with that.
I think it's safe to say that we need to do a tutorial on this to go over it if we do it, doesn't it?
Yeah, there is a YouTube video on how to do this. And basically you can then, I need to disable that filter.
Would you say that using the OBS stuff actually is quite complicated? Only to get it set
Depends
up.
how technically literate you are. I mean, John and I, we've kind of had to play with it to get it working how we want, haven't we, John? But I think we've got it to a place where it's doing.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think it's the best thing since sliced bread, and it's actually, yeah. If you just watch YouTube videos, you see how easy it is just to do things. But yeah, I mean, if you're easy with computers, you should be able to do this quite easily. Personally.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it does help to know a little bit about, you know, what these things do. But the YouTube videos obviously just make it simple for everyone. So yeah, that's basically it. And then
one thing about OBS, I don't know if it's worth mentioning as well. We only use one camera, and we don't use the zoom in, zoom out actual function on the camera, which we could do. But what you can do with OBS, you can create on. I'm sorry, Drew, if I'm jumping ahead. The scenes on the left, and you can actually, if your camera's good enough, you can zoom in, or you can create a larger image, which we use for the speaker. So yeah. You could, if your camera's good enough, you could actually just create your various scenes, yeah. Which is what we do, but yeah.
So that's cropped in there, isn't it? Because you can see the
presentation one, Drew, as well.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah.
So the presenter would be standing here on the right, and then the slides, whatever, will go through as a whole image.
I think it would be good, Drew, when if maybe if people are going to go with OBS or look at it, I don't know if it's worth if you could link a couple of good YouTube videos, or just make a couple of simple ones yourself, just to explain, like because obviously from a church point of view, it's got a very specific function, hasn't it? You're trying to do church lyrics, etc.
Yeah.
So
there's lots of content out there, to be honest. So I'll find something. Like the amount of how to stream videos there are with a church focus have skyrocketed in the past 6 months. So yeah, I'll have a look. So what we have is scenes which we just go through, and you can create scenes with videos embedded. You can just do a holding slide like that. You can do different cameras, different layouts, all that kind of stuff. So that when you're ready to go, you just hit transition, and it transitions and it plays back. You're probably hearing that now, aren't you? And then you can just transition to the next screen, and you just go through, and you keep going through notices, etc. So yeah, it's good. It has simplified it for us, because all Dave has to do on a Sunday is do the lyrics and then click the next scene for the next section of the service. So the intro, then he clicks on to the worship. He then goes back to Pro Presenter and clicks through the slides as they're sung through, and then he'll go through to the next one with notices or something like that, and then the speaker, and then the speaker with the presentation, then a final song, and then the end. And he just clicks transition, and it just goes through the whole list. So it does make it easy for him in doing that. But like we say, it's a bit more, perhaps a bit more complicated than using the ATEM Mini, which when you see the video that guy's done, makes it gives you a lot of ideas of what you could do, just to keep it simple or to go to town.
Drew, how long does it take to set up a meeting?
A meeting? Do you mean
to plan a meeting and set it all up and make it so that your colleague can go through it easily?
John did all of these scenes. He's done it over a period of time, really. So these scenes that we've got set up here, we've been doing this, how long, John? Maybe 6-8 weeks?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah. And I think the first one, we just used one scene, perhaps, one or two scenes, which is basically just the intro video, then a basic kind of worship thing, and then a speaker setting, like that. And then as time's gone on, we've added more things in, so then we can then just jump around to what we need. So you can have, worship with no lyrics on, worship with lyrics, speaker with nothing, speaker with lower third verses or with a presentation, all these kind of things. So it doesn't, I think, and it does save this. So once I've closed this and reopening it, it will still have the same scenes in there. So they're just there ready for us to use each week. So you only have to set them up once.
Is it drag and drop, or is it just drag to change the scenes? You just drag the spaces around on the screen. Is that literally what you do?
No. So if I queue up the intro video here, so if I click that, I just click transition up in the middle here.
To make a scene. So if I want to make a scene with a camera and a thing,
yeah. So I just click plus, then I add my scene 2. Then you add your sources to it. You can see this all on YouTube, but you add your sources.
Sort of similar to doing a PowerPoint presentation, where you've got your basic slide, and then you have a text, and then you have a picture box, and so that's the principle.
You can do that, yeah. So we can do, so if I start with video capture device, so if we add the Cisco camera, add the existing Cisco camera, go, and then I want to add, say, let's just say we just want to do
drag the edges of that to like crop it and things like that as well.
Yeah. So I'm going to do this Pro Presenter screen, which will hopefully be the whole thing. There we go. So then I can then make that smaller. So this is a classic picture-in-picture, what you're seeing now. You've got the, maybe quarter, third of the size of the actual screen, picture-in-picture. So that's ready to go. And then I would add an audio input device as well. And I'll add the existing one. Click OK. And then click transition. And so this side is the live side. This is what they're seeing on YouTube, for example. And that's it. It's as simple as that. And I did that quite quickly, but and I have used it a fair amount, so it might.
Mike, just to give you an idea of what we do on a Sunday morning. So the only thing really that we do is re-import these songs into Pro Presenter, because all our existing songs would only fit in a window in what we see there that Drew's done. But with Pro Presenter, we re-import them, and it automatically puts them in that kind of 2-line kind of size. So actually with OBS, we don't make really any change, except if we stop now using a notices video, But when we were using our notices on video, we would update the video because of the notices had changed. So you're talking like 5 minutes with OBS, 15 minutes, 20 minutes with the words. So it's very, very simple once you've got it set up.
Yeah, and ProPresenter does have a new add-in which we're hoping to procure at some point.
It's fair to say though, I think virtually I would imagine you're the only church using ProPresenter on this call.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So I mean, it could be ProPresenter, it could be anything else. It could be PowerPoint.
But you could in OBS, you could realistically do half and half, couldn't you? Or like, so if you had the congregation singing, for example, say if you had a picture of the congregation singing from the back, and you had your square, you could have that across the bottom corner, couldn't you? So if people are watching from home, they're still able to feel like they're sitting. I think that's what I'm thinking about. If I'm thinking about someone, like I've got an old lady who's sort of, 80, Joyce, she wants to feel like she's part of it. If she's looking at from a distance, it feels like you're sitting in the meeting and then you're seeing the words. You feel it gives, for me, I'm thinking like, how does that make her feel like she can be part of it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that does obviously impact, because if you do want people to feel a part of things, so that will depend on your camera angles, that kind of thing.
Because it's fair to say you guys haven't actually had people in the building yet, have you? So the reason you've kept it simple with the cameras is because you've only had people on the stage. So whether in a few weeks' time, when you have people back in the building, you might...
When we were streaming before lockdown, so
you were, yeah, and it was good.
Yeah, and we did have some in, because that was just the camera shot. But actually, what we found is not a lot of people actually want to be on camera. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know, we've never had this conversation, but I personally not really felt that was a priority of having the congregation being seen, because I know there are some that wouldn't want to be seen. But that's not a conversation we've had. But
that's true.
Yeah, and obviously at the moment that camera is smack bang in the middle of the room, isn't it? So right in front of where obviously, yeah. So
eventually it's going to be mounted somewhere near the back, and we'll be using the pan tilt zoom more to get it to show what we want it to show.
I mean, one of the challenges for both, like say, River and Heathfield, I mean, if Heathfield ever did do something like this, would be that obviously we meet in community centres, and so we haven't got kind of permanent buildings to operate from. So that's just, again, that's partly what we've just been thinking about.
Yeah.
But, yeah, John, you made a good point about congregations and people not wanting to be seen. Actually, that's a good point.
The other thing with that is, of course, you've got the safeguarding and all that kind of malarkey as well to think about.
Unlikely we'd have children at this point, but yeah, in the long term, very possibly. Because I think we're foreseeing that this might be a long-term thing. That's how we're thinking about River. Is obviously, I know that the next few months we're unlikely to meet in the same way we have done previously, but actually, I think there's a number in our congregation that would appreciate it. To be honest, even after lockdown is finished and the church goes back to normal, because there are quite a number of people that are elderly and can't necessarily get to the meeting.
One way around that, Tim, is to see it in two ways. So you have a Zoom call for your congregation, which is a separate, password protected, camera view, and one which is actually public to YouTube, Facebook, whatever, which is just on the stage. So you've got both options there, but one is password protected, and one is accessible by the public.
Yeah. Which actually I think probably is a nice segue, Drew, into talking about how you could include Zoom in this.
Yeah. So funny enough, I was just thinking that we're using Zoom right now with a PA plugged in, albeit not the Cisco camera, but a Logitech camera. So we are essentially doing what you may well do in a hybrid meeting. I mean, the only difference that we've got here is that what have I done? I've just turned down the microphone on the main PA, really, that's all. It's a bit disconcerting hearing yourself back, as ever, through the PA. But if I were to, let me quickly just do some bits. So so this is the kind of thing that you might stumble across if you were using congregation side of things. To be honest, I've never tried it in here, so I don't know how this is going to sound. But these are our congregation mics here, which just face out into the hall. in a stereo pair, just to give a nice sense of space. If I turn those up, you should be able to hear more of the hall sound perhaps in the call. Oh, I tell you what, have I got the use original sound on? Quickly stop sharing 1 sec.
So while you're figuring out, one of the things that I'd heard that you can do with the Zoom thing is that you can have Zoom on a separate computer. So you could have your Zoom on a separate machine and then use that as a HDMI input into like the ATM Mini or into OBS. So you can almost have it like this. So say, imagine I'm looking at my screen now. I can put that as a video input. So actually, then you can flick to that, so that people can kind of be in both. Yeah. Would that work?
Yeah, you could do it like that. I think there'd be a bit of lag or delay, perhaps, rather than do it from the PC itself. Yeah, it could work. So this is just quickly. This is the audio settings on Zoom. So I've gone down to advanced. So something that Zoom does and all video conferencing systems will do is they'll do noise cancellation and echo cancellation, which is why when you play guitar through Zoom, it doesn't sound like a guitar coming through Zoom. It sounds like garbled chunks of something. So what you need to do is in Zoom is to enable original sound from the microphone. And so what this will do, it will bypass all the kind of fancy Zoom processing to give you a better sound, basically, especially good for music. It's also got disable echo cancellation, which might get messy. So this is, I'm being totally honest, this is a total trial. So we'll quickly give that a go as well. So if I close that, and we'll just see what happens. So if I just thinking out loud. So you should be able to hear me in the room now. Can you hear me on the Zoom call?
Yeah, we can hear you, yeah.
Pardon?
Can you hear me on the Zoom call?
Yeah, we can hear you on the Zoom call, Drew.
So this is just a foundation mics now being used, not the handheld microphone. So this is how it would work in terms of hiding music in that case. It seems to be okay. So this is the kind of spec
We can hardly hear you on the Zoom call.
Yeah, so that's the problem, I guess, is that it's not really designed, the congregation mics. So the congregation mics aren't really totally designed, to pick up intelligible speech, and output it through to Zoom. Hasn't really been done like that before, so I'd need to work on that. But essentially, it sounds like it is possible. To do that, if you wish to do that, that was going to be one of my.
I suppose the answer could be that you could have a microphone which people have to use when they pray. If people want like a handheld microphone that people can use if people want to pray, or just something that's maybe in the middle of or someone that's wandering around, maybe, with a microphone that's happy to put it near people, something like that. If it depends on how, I suppose it depends how important that is, isn't it, to people in terms of what they're trying to get from an experience from the. And this is why it comes back to your original questions, Drew, isn't it? Is it who is it for? Is it going to work like that? How much? But I think thinking about streaming, because I'm thinking out loud here, but I'm thinking about a hybrid situation. Yeah. Part of what would happen in some of our meetings, particularly if we're meeting together, particularly if there's not, you can't do so much singing. you know, if we had a hybrid, there would be space for people to pray, and obviously then that's potentially like, you know, someone who's watching the live stream wouldn't necessarily be able to hear anything that's happening for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or however long it is. So it's just that is something to think about. I hadn't considered.
Yeah, going back to a different scenario, Drew. What about if this was the context of a meeting? We have people in the church where you are.
Yep.
And some of us here on the Zoom session, we want to pray. Can our faces also come up so the people in the congregation can see us and hear us?
Drew, do you want to turn off those microphones?
Yeah.
So I guess, could you hear yourself back then? Could you hear Tim? Is that why you asked me to turn them off?
It was just humming a lot.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I'll need to check that out. Yes, you could show them on the screen.
Because I must admit, I'm seeing it less from the purpose of live streaming and more for the purpose of general interaction. Some people in the room, some people not in the room.
So to do that, you would have to share, you'd have to project the Zoom call, which you would probably have to do from a PC, which isn't the Lyrics PC. And maybe even have a second screen, because if you want people on the Zoom call to be visible while you're singing songs and you've got the lyrics up as well, then you'd have two screens. So how we do video conferencing at work is that there's often two outputs from the video conference machines, and one will be of the content, i.e. the presentation or the lyrics, in our case, and the other will be the far end video, which will be the composite video of everyone, you know, the gallery view perhaps, or individual if it's just to one person. And you'd have that on two separate screens on the wall. So I think just with one projector or one screen, that might be hard to achieve, to have them on the screen at the same time you've got the lyrics. And then it would probably make it tricky for the lyrics operator to then stop showing the lyrics and then show the Zoom call. You know, it might make it a bit more fiddly for them to do that. But if you've got two screens or can have two screens, then that's probably the best way of doing it.
What about the delay aspects?
I just wanted to say thank you ever so much. I need to bail out now. But thank you ever so much for letting me in, and it's been very interesting. I have to say that we have been using Zoom, and for us it's worked really, really, really well. We have about 35 participants, I suppose, in a meeting, and many of those are couples, of course. And it works quite well. And we thought that as we got together in the hall, what we might do is have the Zoom meeting on the overhead, as you've just been describing, but have a laptop or two in the hall that form two of the boxes on the Zoom meeting on the overhead projector, so that not only have we got ourselves, but other people who are not with us can see us as well, and then just share songs in the way that we do now. I mean, what you've confirmed to me is that doing this streaming thing really well requires quite a lot of technical prowess, which you obviously have to learn. We bought an XAir Behringer to simplify our PA, and found actually, although it has the advantage that you can control it remotely, and therefore the guy doing it can sort it out from various areas in the hall and see what the sound is like. Actually, it's a lot more complicated than just twiddling a few knobs, which we got now. But I can see that in many situations it could be really good. But I just want to say thank you very, very much. I think seeing this has kind of confirmed my thoughts that for our little situation, we're going to work on our prowess at Zoom and make that as good as possible. But this has been, for me, I enjoy technical stuff, so for me this has been really interesting.
Mike,
very, very much.
Mike, I would just say, Mike, just one thing for you go. I think if you're going to do that, I would recommend you get some decent microphones.
I think that if we have it in a few people in the hall, we probably have a couple of laptops, and if somebody wanted to contribute to the meeting from the hall setting, they would simply walk up to that laptop and then speak straight into it.
You might find that brings feedback loops in if you're not
But
careful.
you'd only have one of the laptops actually a microphone enabled. So
that's right.
Okay.
Because I did a wedding recently using Zoom, and it does work really well like that, and you can do it. But I think you'd need a decent microphone, otherwise people in the room people on Zoom would really struggle to hear what people were saying in the room. That's just that would be my. So I think you can do it like that, and as you say, it will work. For what you're doing, it will work. But you just might want to think about investing in a decent quality microphone.
Okay.
That would be my one piece of advice. But yeah.
Okay.
So.
Interesting. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay then. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks,
I
Mike.
think it'd be good to finish there actually, and just stop that. I think obviously it started basic, and obviously then we've kind of leveled up as we've gone along. So just thanks to Drew and to John for all that they've done. I think what will be really helpful, I think, is that Drew will produce a maybe a basic kit list or something. But I think also, I'm sure there's going to be a ton of questions that people have got that are related to this somehow. And I'm sure that Drew, if when you send it round, you put your email address on, I'm sure people can maybe contact you with an email. If they need to have a chat to you, I'm sure you'd be happy to have a bit of a chat from time to time.
Yeah, perfect.
Fantastic. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much.